The Cop29 has a group of 20 advisors. They have to know. The people have to know their faces. People have to know who are they, why they are doing this. So we need to build this pressure, and we have time. And thank you for this, because I think, yes, for me, at the beginning are the Armenians. Then in the second step will be, there are many Azerbaijan people demanding the release of the political prisoners, because they are dissidents in jail also. And you have all the social climate change people who are worried about the fossil energy, because what's happening in COP29 is the fossil energy industry is controlling climate change.
Right.
So basically, Genocide Convention not working, climate change convention not working. Why? Because the bad guys are controlling it. So we need to recover.
Mermi ateş olundu.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am Sandy Shellis, and we have a quite important show tonight, and it is controversial. We're going to talk about Azerbaijan, the city of Baku. We're going to talk about the politics of the Cop29, where it's being held. And I'm going to start out with something I found interesting, which I did put in the show notes. And I've already lost subscribers because a couple of people were literally incensed that I'm covering this. And they literally said to me that how dare I not cover Gaza, but I'm covering this. Obviously, they don't know the channel very well, since I have videos, anti-war videos that I've made specifically covering just that. So I guess I'll have to make a playlist that specifically says anti-war, because it was ridiculous. It kind of pissed me off. Actually, it really angered me. And if you don't like my channel, don't come. And the one person was so incensed that she was just, oh my God, you do this, and I've never seen one thing on this channel about Gaza, and I'm unsubscribing. Well, you know what I have to say about that, right? Okay, so I'm a tiny channel, so you see people unsubscribe. Well, too bad. I cover things how I cover them. We do. And I've made these videos, these anti-war videos, to talk about what happens in other countries. And it's just the way it is. But if you have a problem, and I've said this, you know what my email address is. Can always ask me a question instead of come in. And the other person actually accused me of looking at too much propaganda, and the United States is part of all this. I'm like what? We don't know that? You know. I really didn't mean to start like that. And yes, there's plenty of coverage everywhere. Everybody covers it ad nauseum. It's a horrible situation. Trust me, if you followed me on X Twitter, you know how I felt about it. We are an environmental channel. We are a climate channel, and I do everything under the environmental umbrella. So that's it. That's it. And right, you don't have to agree, but to put it in the show notes, in the chat before the show even started. Not writing, not asking, nothing. Stopping off, well, I don't need that. So now I'm going to start the show. As we know, Cop29 is actually now in Azerbaijan, and it is a petro state. I mean, they make all of their money from oil and gas production, 33 million tons in 2022, 35 billion cubic meters of gas, and they export about 80% to 90%. And it's a state-owned oil company, which is SOCAR, and that's a major source. And believe it or not, like every other dictatorship, which it is not a democracy, it led to the enrichment of the country's ruling elites. So I think I'm going to start with some history for you guys. And I have a couple of different videos, short ones, and I because we really all need the education. The one thing I want to say about genocides or ethnic cleansing or any of these wars are that they are all bad. They're all bad. And to have to feel like you've got to rate them is ridiculous, okay? What's going on in Gaza is hideous. No one is disagreeing on that. But to rate one from the other, which one is worse? They're all bad, okay? They're all hideous. They're all something that should not be happening. It just should not be happening. So let's start with I'm going to set up the one video so we get a little background. And I don't want to, all right, I'll find it. I want to make sure I know which one. Okay. All right. I don't know. Hang on. I want to make sure it's not the long one. Okay, here we go.
Azerbaijan launched military action in the Nagorno-Karabakh region on Tuesday, a move that could foreshadow a new war. It says it did so to drive out what it claims are Armenian troops. Armenia and Azerbaijan were both members of the Soviet Union, and in the 3 decades since its collapse, they've already fought 2 wars. Here's a look at how we got here. Nagorno-Karabakh is at the center of the conflict. It's a mountainous region within Azerbaijan and is internationally recognized as part of it. But it's known as Artsakh by Armenians, and its 120,000 inhabitants are predominantly ethnic Armenians. They have their own government, which is close to Armenia, but not officially recognized by it or any other country. Armenians who are Christians claim a presence in the area dating back several centuries before Christ. Azerbaijan, whose inhabitants are mostly Turkic Muslims, also claim deep historical ties. Bloody conflict between the two peoples goes back more than a century. The region saw 2 wars after the Soviet Union crumbled. One that took place between 1988 and 1994, and a second that lasted 44 days in 2020. Over the course of the 2 wars, tens of thousands died. In the first war, over 1 million people were displaced. Most of those were Azeris, driven from their homes when Armenia ended up with control over Nagorno-Karabakh. In the second, Azerbaijan managed to take back 1/3 of Nagorno-Karabakh. Russia brokered a ceasefire between the two, providing peacekeepers to guard the Lachin Corridor, a crucial road that connects the territory to Armenia. Analysts say successive rounds of talks have brought the two sides closer to a permanent peace treaty, but a final settlement remains elusive. Tensions started ratcheting up again when a group of Azerbaijani civilians, identifying themselves as environmental activists, began blocking the Lachin Corridor. An Azerbaijan checkpoint was set up, blocking the flow of goods to Armenia. It caused what the US called a rapidly deteriorating humanitarian situation. The International Committee of the Red Cross was able to make aid deliveries this week.
All right, I have one more, but it's only the end. And I don't want to play the whole thing because it is my first post. I mean, it's really good, but it's 10 minutes. And I just want to show you the end. But I have to get to the right, to where it was. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, we're going to see this. Here we go. Just the end. All right. It's going to show you who are the players, you know? All right. But I want to get there. Sorry. Forgive me, but I didn't cut it. Okay, here we go.
Geopolitical players have always taken note of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Armenia and Azerbaijan too have
You'll
formed
be surprised,
alliances,
I think.
and some of these challenge the very essence of diplomacy, making Nagorno-Karabakh one of the most overlooked cases of geopolitics. Let's start with Azerbaijan. Russia has had a neutral stance towards both Armenia and Azerbaijan, but Baku feels that Moscow supports Yerevan. Then comes the biggest regional player. Turkey has repeatedly pledged support for Azerbaijan, not just in terms of supplying weapons, but deepening bilateral ties as well. Interestingly, after Turkey, Azerbaijan gets its second largest cache of weapons from Israel. Azerbaijan's other major weapons suppliers include Belarus, Canada, and Ukraine. So, who supports Armenia? Russia has stayed largely neutral. However, Moscow is the largest weapons supplier to Yerevan. Iran, which once called itself neutral, has begun openly favoring Armenia. And guess what? Iran finds itself on the same team with its global rival, the United States of America. Over the years, Washington, D.C. has gotten closer to Yerevan, and military drills between the US and Armenia have ticked off Azerbaijan. But somehow, that hasn't pushed Russia to the Azerbaijani camp. At the same time, America's rival China also supports Armenia. If this wasn't confusing enough, India, who has strained relations with China, also backs Armenia. In fact, New Delhi has become one of the main weapons suppliers to Yerevan. As India arms Armenia, it competes with Israel that arms Azerbaijan. India and Israel consider themselves as strategic partners. But things are different in Nagorno-Karabakh. Nations that are rivals find each other on the same team over Nagorno-Karabakh. Iran and the US are on the same team. India and China support Armenia, even if they're competing to sell their weapons. At the same time, Israel, that's an ally of both the US and India, supports Azerbaijan. And Turkey is trying to create a bigger role for itself in the Caucasus. Ankara even wants to send its own peacekeeping force to Nagorno-Karabakh. Russia is still the largest player. Moscow has had the difficult job of balancing and staying neutral. But Putin deserves credit for ensuring the war never spiraled out of control. He's always been proactive in ensuring ceasefires. But the question that remains is, till when will this seesaw game go on? Will Russia always be able to step in? Or is a major war between Armenia and Azerbaijan around the corner? Is peace even possible in Nagorno-Karabakh? If more ceasefires are brokered, which side will be the bigger loser? Armenia or Azerbaijan?
They're both the bigger losers, honestly. And what it is all over religious war, territory. I mean, it doesn't change from any of these countries. It just doesn't change. But I wanted you to get the background of this area, this territory, which I showed you before. It's Azerbaijan. There it is. See it? There's the space. There's the space where it is. Yep. All right. Let me turn my little self off so that you see it. Listen, I'm also having a lot of pain. So we're going to do the show, though. I'm not I'm not. It's because it's interesting stuff, especially since we cover the Council of the Parties, COP. So we're going to move on and show. I have articles. We're going to talk about what is happening this year. But now that you have a background about this country that is hosting COP, which is, in my opinion, quite ridiculous, really ridiculous. Hang on. Okay. So let's start out with, I'm going to show you this is COP, okay? It's got 18 days before the conference in Baku. And I'm not going to go through all this because we'll probably do this on another show. I wanted to really do the geopolitical stuff tonight first so we could really get an idea of who is hosting, okay? And I'm going to also tell you a little, I'm not going to read this. This is way long, but it's in there. This is the Armenian genocide. I mean, this stuff has been going on for so long. The Armenian genocide refers to the physical annihilation of ethnic Armenian Christian people living in the Ottoman Empire from spring 1915 through autumn 1916. So it was pretty bad. All right. The Ottoman Empire, I know you've heard of it, but they killed large numbers of people in mass shootings. Many others died during mass deportations due to starvation, dehydration, exposure, and disease. And in addition, tens of thousands of Armenian children were forcibly removed from their families and converted to Islam. So again, it's religious. And this conflict, this last one, it started on September 19th, 2023. The ethnic Armenian enclave was officially dissolved on January 1st, 2024. Faced with the prospect of rule by Azerbaijan, more than 100,000 people, almost all of Nagorno-Karabakh's population, fled to Armenia in 1 week. Now, Baku plans to reintegrate the region and its remaining population into Azerbaijan, promising economic development, but now attention is turned to normalizing relations and reaching a peace agreement. So we saw the background, and but there were cross-border attacks. They keep fighting each other. Heavy fighting broke out along the Azerbaijan Nagorno-Karabakh border in September 2020. More than 7,000 soldiers and civilians were killed, with hundreds more Armenian and Azerbaijani soldiers wounded. Both countries initially rejected pressure from the United Nations, the United States, and Russia to hold talks to end hostilities, and instead they pledged to continue fighting because everybody wants that orange area. Yep. Okay, so I want to introduce you to someone. His name is Luis Moreno Ocampo, and he is the founding ICC prosecutor, former deputy prosecutor of the trial of the juntas, founder of Global Peace Hub, and he is just very upset over what's happening. And he was the person that I played you in the beginning, and but he's who I really learned about a lot of this from. Okay, and let's go down. He's been on a lot of things. And how did it turn into Spanish? I wanted it in English. I have to find him. Hang on. All right, wait. Okay. Well, anyway, he's got a lot of things going on. He's a pretty amazing person. Decision for new climate finance goals will mark future of climate justice and equality in a multilateral regime. He posts a lot about this, but he says, can meaningful progress be made if authoritarian regimes with human rights violations steer the conversation when a country with hostages and restricted press freedoms holds a global summit? Can we trust the priorities guiding the climate finance goals? We must question the fairness of climate finance decisions when authoritarian regimes, often involved in human rights abuses, guide the dialogue. Can we expect transparency in the process? And nobody's looking. Nobody cares. Climate justice and human rights must go hand in hand. How can Cop29 lead the real solutions when Azerbaijan continues to jail Armenian hostages and political prisoners? There's a lot going on. Can we expect a climate change from a country that denies basic freedoms to its citizens? So we're going to go on a little bit, and I'm going to move on. He wrote an article in Politico, and he says it's not just about Armenian community in Nagorno-Karabakh. It's focused on different forms of genocide committed against the Armenians in Armenia itself. All right. And by the way, at the end of my show, I am playing my anti-war song. I won't get a copyright, but I won't be able to monetize. So if anybody wants to help me with my kitty fund, feel free. All right. December 2023 marked the 75th anniversary of the Genocide Convention's adoption. And yet here we stand at a moment when, despite constant discussion of the term, the international community is failing miserably to address the problem. Just in the last months of 2023, the UN Special Advisor to the Prevention of Genocide, Alice Rarimu Nadridu, alerted the world to 6 different situations where there's risk of genocide against ethnic groups. She mentioned the risks affecting the Rohingya, the people of Nagorno-Karabakh, the Tigray in Ethiopia, Israelis and Palestinians, and the Masalit in Darfur. Since her mandate doesn't allow her to say if genocide indeed was committed, this is the most she can do. And now we face another. Last month, California-based Center for Truth and Justice petitioned the International Criminal Court, who he was the head of, where I served as the first chief prosecutor to investigate Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev, or is it pronounced? It is Aliyev, for genocide against Armenians in Armenia, and its petition for the ICC should consider. The challenge in substantiating genocide often lies in proving intent to destroy, in whole or part, a designated group. That's why the massive dossier presented to the ICC on April 18th by the U.S. Orange County Superior Court Judge Gassia Abkarian, who represents the Center for Truth and Justice, is remarkable. It presents the consistent declarations made by Aliyev over the last decade, unequivocally demonstrating his intention to destroy ethnic Armenians. To be clear, this isn't just about the Armenian community in Nagorno-Karabakh. It's a disputed self-governing enclave within Azerbaijan. The communication is focused on different forms of genocide committed against Armenians in Armenia itself. As early as April 2015, he published a statement on Azerbaijan government's official website warning ethnic Armenians, if you do not want to die, then get out of Azerbaijani lands. He has also repeatedly dehumanized ethnic Armenians, referring to them as a virus, rats, dogs, devils, terrorists, fascists, enemies, usurping interlopers, barbarians, and vandals, while encouraging violence against them. Does that sound familiar? To destroy different Armenian groups that were in the areas of Armenia under the illegal Azerbaijani occupation, he created conditions calculated to bring about the physical destruction of civilians and produce mental harms as defined by the Genocide Convention's Article 2C, in turn leading to their decimation, Article 2B, and forcible displacement. Subsequently, the Azerbaijani armed forces launched military attacks to take control of these areas, indiscriminately killing ethnic Armenian civilians who refused or were unable to flee. In Nagorno-Karabakh, Aliyev implemented this strategy in clear view of the international community. Sound familiar again? Initially, his armed forces enforced an unlawful blockade of the Lachin corridor, the only lifeline to the outside world, for 9 months, ignoring 2 binding orders from the International Court of Justice, which warned about the risk of genocide against the 120,000 Armenians living there. So subsequently, in September 2023, Aliyev launched unlawful military aggression, taking control of the territory and forcing ethnic Armenians to flee. Aliyev celebrated this forced displacement of ethnic Armenians during several televised addresses, declaring, "I said that if they do not leave our lands of their own free will, we will chase them away like dogs, and we are doing it." However, Judge Abkarian's legal analysis sheds new light on previous facts, uncovering that a similar genocidal strategy was implemented in sovereign Armenians' provinces of Gegarkunik, Sunik, Vaidat Zor, and Ariat in May 2021, forgive me for my pronunciations, resulting in the unlawful forcible displacement of at least 3,000 ethnic Armenians. She also judged that women captured by the Azerbaijani armed forces were systematically singled out to be subjected to gender-specific brutalities, resulting in mental harm to the entire Armenian community. In one of many incidences in 2022, the Yashma Brigade of Azerbaijani armed forces shared a video on social media showing a woman captured, mutilated, and killed, stripped naked, her eye gouged and replaced with a stone, her legs cut off, her ears cut off, and her severed finger placed in her mouth, being kicked by an Azerbaijani soldier. The CFTJ's documentation reveals that approximately 20,000 Azerbaijani users downloaded some of the images depicting tortured Armenian women within a mere 5-day period. Today, Azerbaijan's genocidal policy continues to pose an imminent threat to other Armenians residing within Armenia's borders as well. 2023, Aliyev stated, "The Azerbaijani flag flied in Karabakh today. Today, the Azerbaijani flag flies in the Zangezur Mountains. Can that human-like creature, ethnic Armenians, and his likes approach those flags? One day they may wake up to see the Azerbaijan flag above their heads." Then, on March 9th, 2024, Deputy Prime Minister Shahin Mustafayev demanded the immediate surrender of border villages Baganasayr, Asagi Eskapara, Hayrimli, and Kizrilhashli by Armenia. And believe me, I tried to figure out the pronunciations before the show. I did, honestly, which would tragically condemn their ethnic Armenian residents to the same fate. Eventually, an agreement was reached, and Armenia agreed to return to all 4 villages. Finally, Azerbaijan's parliament confirmed its genocidal intent towards Armenians in Armenia by adopting a resolution titled "Statement on the Return of the Return of the Western Azerbaijanis to their historical homeland," claiming its sovereignty over the entirety of Armenian territory and marking the first genocide adopted by a parliament. It's a bitter reality that more than a century after the first widely recognized genocide of the modern era, where over 1 million Armenians were slaughtered by the Ottomans, Armenians again are the victims of genocide. So indeed, soon after the ethnic cleansing in Nagorno-Karabakh, Turkish President Erdogan visited Azerbaijan to show his support, and Western political leaders seem to support him too. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has even called Azerbaijan a crucial partner. You think it's because of oil? All of this is a sober reminder of how little we've learned from history and how vulnerable we still are to evil. In 1932, Einstein wrote to Sigmund Freud, arguing that extreme nationalism could beget violence on a huge scale. It's time for the world to understand this as well, and created new strategies to stop all genocide. And has that happened? No. Nope. And so, again, I'm not going to read all these, but I have everything in the show notes because there's a lot. Armenia claims Azerbaijan completed ethnic cleansing in Nagorno-Karabakh. So this is from April of 2024, and Azerbaijan has completed it. And that's what it was claimed to the UN's top court. All right. So there's a lot here. They've completed ethnic cleansing of the region. Pretty much they've left. Now, of course, there's always two sides of the story, right? All right. So we're going to move on. AP covered it. Armenians face genocide in Azerbaijan. Former International Criminal Court prosecutor warns, and this is the same dude. And he wrote to me actually today, and he did say, asked me to please tag anything with Cop29 to his stuff. And Luis Moreno Ocampo, I asked him if he possibly would want to be live with me Friday night because he's in New York, so that we could talk about this from his point of view. We'll see if he gets back to me. But most of these articles are covering the same things. And this was from the Action Network. Going to Cop29, act now to change the venue from genocidal petro dictatorship, Azerbaijan. Did it work? No. If you thought Dubai was a bad place for COP, wait till it goes to Azerbaijan. Yep. And they are an international activist collective driven to take action against the irresponsible, damaging, and dangerous decision of the UNFCCC to allow COP29, the most consequential climate change conference in the world, to be hosted in Azerbaijan, a hugely corrupt petrostate, under an extreme authoritarian regime with systemic oppression that ranks even lower than bordering sanctioned states, Iran and Russia, also a close ally. So what happened? It didn't happen, obviously. It obviously didn't happen. Journalists refused entry. The human rights crisis in Azerbaijan, they have rigged elections, the whole 9 yards. Just a lovely country. Really lovely country. But I'm going to move on. But this is all in the show notes. And here is another, now here's the other side. This is the Azerbaijan media. Speaker of the Armenian parliament acknowledges Karabakh as internationally recognized territory of Azerbaijan. So he's saying that the Elen Simonian stated that Karabakh has been and remains internationally recognized as part of the Azerbaijan's territory, which actually it was. But he's saying it because it is a legal perspective. He said occupying Armenian territories are different things from a legal perspective. So somebody asked him, well, where did you get the right that Azerbaijan had the right to attack Karabakh and the UN resolutions allowed it? And he said, the fact remains that this territory was and continues to be internationally recognized as a part of Azerbaijan. So there's a lot of crap in this. They've got all kinds of stuff trying to make themselves look so wonderful before Cop29. All right, so we're going to move up to another guy. to another article, and this is this I found on X, and as they prepare, it's a NPB Climate Action Now Cop29. It's a facade amidst human rights violations and environmental neglect. So as they prepare to host the 29th United Nations Climate Change Conference in November 2024, the country faces mounting criticism over its environmental record and human rights issues. It has led to concerns about the effectiveness of the upcoming climate summit. How many of you think that this climate summit is going to be effective? Despite positioning itself as a leader in climate action, Azerbaijan's environmental practices have come under scrutiny. The country's economy remains heavily dependent on fossil fuel, with gas and oil accounting for over, and this one says 90% of exports and about 50% of the state budget. And so I just want to go down and show you this picture. Environmental activists have highlighted issues such as oil pollution near Baku, which if you don't think they're cleaning the shit up right now, I've seen some horrible pictures. They have been torturing animals, killing animals off the streets. Yeah, it's bad. With residents complaining about toxic hazards posed by oil spills, the government response to environmental protests such as those in Soyudulu against the gold mines' toxic waste have been criticized for its heavy-handed approach. Look at that. Doesn't that look lovely? That's lovely. Human rights concerns, and I'm not going to play that. The international community also expressed concerns about Azerbaijan's ability to host an inclusive and effective climate conference. Climate action experts and human rights advocates have called for greater scrutiny of Azerbaijan's domestic policies and for the release of political prisoners before COP29. Oh, yes, there's political prisoners. And so even the Washington Post has covered it. This was from an Azerbaijan prison, and this is a dissident, Gubad Ibdokulu. All right. And this was in March. And but he's in prison. Okay. But I'm going to show you more. I'm not going to read the Washington Post. I'm showing you that they're covering it. Now, here's another. This is Human Rights Watch. Human Rights Watch has a lot of very, very important work that they do. They are legit. They really are the best. And they also are talking about the conflict. 100,000 ethnic Armenians, almost the entire Armenian population of Nagorno-Karabakh, fled for Armenia in September following a military operation by Azerbaijan to regain full control. Police abuses and impunity. I mean, it's just terrible. Freedom of expression and information. Although defamation is decriminalized, politicians and private businesses often bring civil cases against journalists and other media outlets, dragging them into lengthy legal battles. Disability rights. Armenia lacks a comprehensive plan to introduce community-based services for people with psychosocial and intellectual disabilities and continues to prioritize institutions and institutional care. Government adopted a program on social inclusion of people with disabilities with envisages. I'm not doing well. With the creation of 8 small group homes and independent living center with the expansion of in-home services for people with disabilities. Okay. So they've got a lot of things going on. Violence against women, authorities. They investigated 1,051 criminal domestic violence complaints through June, significant increase over 391 complaints investigated during the same period in 2022, and brought charges against 144 people. Lots of women killed. They only have 2 shelters for domestic violence. don't even talk about sexual orientation and gender identity. Okay. Key international actors. I don't think I'm going to go through all of this. There's a lot here. Please, please go to the show notes. So they have a whole thing. They remain hostile to dissenting voices. They target government critics and political opponents with dubious charges, undermining its stated commitments to reforms. Great place to have COP, isn't it? In previous years, the authorities released numerous activists imprisoned on politically motivated and bogus charges, but dozens of others remain wrongfully imprisoned. Restrictive laws continue to impede the NGOs from operating independently. So it's pretty bad. Pretty bad. And Council on Foreign Relations, they also said ethnic cleansing is happening, and this was from October 4th, so it's a year ago, happening in Nagorno-Karabakh. Can the world respond? Did the world respond? No, we gave them Cop29. Yep. And the Armenian government accused them of ethnic cleansing. Yeah. The United Nations describes it as purposeful policy designed by one ethnic or religious group to remove by violent and terror-inspiring means the civilian population of another ethnic or religious group from certain geographic areas. The use of starvation tactics against ethnic Armenians during the months-long closure of the so-called Lachen corridor between Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia, combined with Azerbaijani army intimidation, resulted in an exodus of Armenians that has triggered the charge of ethnic cleansing. So, do international monitors have a role to play? It's a tough one. There it is. There's that little area. Kind of looks like Gaza, but in the middle of the two countries. Yep. And Azerbaijan claims it'll treat the Romanian Armenians just like any other minority population, after talking about them like dogs, basically vermin. All right. So there's a lot here also. And again, I just wanted to show you how many people are addressing all of it. The University Network for Human Rights, and this was updated in August 2024, atrocities and ethnic cleansing in Nagorno-Karabakh. And this was actually students that did go, but they said by the beginning of October last year, course of 11 brutal days, Azerbaijan completed the ethnic cleansing of Nagorno-Karabakh, forcing 100,000, and I've said it again, ethnic Armenian residents to flee. So this university network began investigating and seeking accountability for ongoing human rights violations against the ethnic Armenians in 2021. And continues to do so, including through conducting field research and advocacy. So the students from University of California joined the UNHR supervisors from the organization's fourth fact-finding trip to Yerevan, Armenia, and areas on the border. They interviewed former prisoners of war, Armenian residents of border communities, victims of torture, relatives of civilians. You know, do you get the idea? Do you get the drift here? Do you get it? Azerbaijan accused of hypocrisy. Now, this is from September from The Guardian. After calling for Cop29 global truce, the climate summit host positioning itself as a peacemaker, but it's accused of ethnic cleansing and imprisoning opponents. So it's like, I really don't even have to read all these. It's the same. Everybody's describing what is going on. What's going on? There was a peace agreement, but there's hundreds of political prisoners. And this is from last month. Okay. So there's hundreds of political prisoners, and all these people from all over the world are going there. Yepper. They sure are. All right, this was Council of Foreign Relations, and these are the pictures from the Human Rights Network. Yeah. And these wonderful, wonderful students doing amazing work. And another political organization, back off. Azerbaijan tells human rights critics ahead of Cop29. Yep, buzz off. And this is just from this last week, October 11th. Don't bring your human rights concerns to Azerbaijan for Cop29. One of the country's top officials declared as criticism mounts of his government's domestic record ahead of the annual climate summit. Yeah, it's a coordinated smear campaign, and it's dirty propaganda. Oh, yeah, it's really disgusting. We perceive it as hostile acts against Azerbaijan, and of course they do. Overburdening the COP agenda with issues not having direct and immediate linkage to climate change is not helpful, but detrimental. You know, climate change is based on science. There's no place for ideology here. You know what I'd like to tell that guy, don't you? Now, last week, 60 U.S. lawmakers also signed an open letter urging Anthony Blinken to use COP29 to press for immediately releasing the political prisoners. And I have that letter. Let me see where it is. Here it is. Congress of the United States. They wrote that letter. And who signed it? A lot of people. Congressman Pallone, Ed Markey, Elizabeth Warren, Jack Reed, Debbie Stabenow, Peter Welch, Gary Peters, Cory Booker, you know, the usual suspects, Chris Van Hollen, Ron Wyden, Jackie Rosen, Sheldon Whitehouse, David Valdeo, Joyce Beatty, Eleanor Holmes Norton, Brad Sherman, Kevin Mullen, Barbara Lee, Grace Meng, Ted Lieu, Seth Magaziner, James McGovern, Dina Titus, Josh Gottheimer, Jan Schakowsky, Robert Menendez. We don't like Robert Menendez. In fact, I think Bob Menendez is going to be the first flush of the night since he's actually a literal criminal. Bye, Rob Menendez. The one from New York. Adam Schiff and Scott Peters. Dan Goldman, Gabe Amo, Pramila Jayapal, Jim Costa, Lloyd Doggett, Lori Trahan. John. I mean, look at them. And who are they? Who do you think they are, guys? I don't know. I don't see what's his name from Texas on there. I don't see anybody from Florida on there. Anyway. So they wrote the letter. Don't know if it helped, because they didn't sign any, so no signs of backing down. At a pre-COP meeting Thursday in Baku, Azerbaijan's capital, Aliyev echoed his foreign policy chief's rhetoric. I cannot but touch upon the smear campaign by some media outlets aimed at tarnishing our image under false pretext. Yeah, okay. Such vain attempts cannot derail us from achieving our noble mission to cope with the negative impacts of climate change. Keep it 1.5. Ha! All right. All righty. Yep. They want to make it a COP of peace. Isn't that a joke? A COP of peace. Yeah. And again, the United Arab Emirates last year also faced criticism for their treatment of dissidents home and their exports of gas. I mean, it's almost like the comedy, you know, it's really a comedy. And Alex Galitsky, despite its farcical claims that COP29 will be the COP of peace, Azerbaijan's regime has extended the unlawful detonation of Artsakh's former state minister Ruben Vardanyan in defiance of international law. It's using COP29 to greenwash its egregious human rights abuses. And he wrote this: letting Azerbaijan host the UN climate conference is a sick joke. Now, I don't like The Hill. This guy was a guest, okay? He was a guest, but it's a sick joke. And it's long been marred by accusations of greenwashing by authoritarian host countries seeking to distract from their human rights abuses. And Cop29 promises to outdo the organization's already dismal track record. The decision for Azerbaijan to host the conference comes just months after the nation's ethnic cleansing of Nagorno-Karabakh, which forcibly displaced the region's entire Armenian population. Without a hint of irony, Azerbaijan's booth at the last such conference displayed a slide stating, "Karabakh is the first region in Azerbaijan to achieve net zero." Now, one wonders whether they were referring to carbon emissions or Armenians. So he goes on. It's pretty much the same, the same stuff. It's all there. I've got show notes a mile long because I did a lot of research on this. Biden administration must follow the lead of lawmakers condemning Azerbaijan's attempts to weaponize Cop29 to obscure its appalling human rights and environmental record. But it's there. It's there. He's the policy director of the Armenian National Committee of America, the largest Armenian American grassroots political advocacy organization in the United States. Good article. You should read it. All right. So, here we go. Azerbaijan throws climate journalists in jail ahead of Cop29. Yep. The story. Yep, they did. Now we know that 50,000 people are expected to travel to the capital, Baku, for the event next month. Now, before I go on with this, I have to show you something. I need to show you just what's going on climatologically there. Hang on. This is happening now. Whoops. Wait. So they're having floods as well. This week. Yep. Not a typically flooding place. All right, so we have a couple more articles, but I do want to show you. So they're jailing people. Azerbaijan campaign of intimidation against independent media continues with raid on Toplum TV. And this was from March. So this already started. It started when they did this to the crackdown on independent media. It's a direct assault on the right to freedom of expression and media freedom and a blatant attempt to silence critical voices. They're targeting, intimidating, and harassing independent media outlets and opposition groups, demonstrating a flagrant disregard for human rights and the rule of law. And one more, this is recent. This just happened. Açık Radio shuts down following license revocation over Armenian genocide remarks. And this was in Turkey. The Istanbul-based independent radio collective was forced to end its 29-year broadcast today after its license was revoked by Turkey's media regulator. So you can't even talk about it, even in another country. See, this was a small station. They focused on social, cultural, political issues, and they had a significant following in Istanbul. And it is collectively owned by hundreds of shareholders and featured contributions from over 1,000 individuals over the years, which is what should happen here in the United States. Not have foreign billionaires owning our media and brainwashing our people in the United States. So they made their final broadcast. No room for different voices. Nope, I don't feel good at all. I want to scream. It's quite sad. Quite sad. So really, this is what's going on. And not a good situation. What do you think? Do you think it's a good situation? I don't. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Any cues? Let me see here. All right. I did. Oh, yes. From the beginning. TR. What a mess. That's right. What a mess. What a mess. You got that right. Oh, the dictator's family is disgusting. His daughter's very active on social media and she's terrible. Well, you know, it stinks. Nadia, Kasparian is an Armenian surname, and note the responsibility of the Cop, aka the Young Turks, for the Armenian genocide. I dare say the YouTube channel, The Young Turks, is very fishy by dint of its name. Well, I can't. Thank you, Nadia. I can't make a comment on that. I really don't know. I do know that I was reading that Cenk says that an Armenian genocide did not happen. But again, I don't know. And I'm not going to speak on what I don't know. And thank you, Aaron. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So let me go down and let's see. Let's see where we go. Hey. Oh, Connecticut's on fire. Lovely. Just lovely. Who's with us? I see Jake's with us. And it's still incoming. Hey, I didn't even know you were doing a show. You missed a lot of good information here. And you'll want to go back and watch because nobody talks about this one. And the fact that people were pissed at me that I was actually covering this and that they accused me of not covering Gaza, which I have. And I'm going to play one of my anti-war videos to end our show tonight, which will probably then make it so I can't monetize it, which is something now I kind of like to do because I've got 7 cats and I'm trying really hard to keep it all together here. Hello, hon, Devil's Therapist. It's good to see you, Dennis. Very much so. Hello, Vitingale. Hello. You're going to watch from Twitch. Okay, that's awesome. Maybe 1 or 2 people watch me from Twitch. Hello, Alex. And hello, Anti-Corporatist. Hello, all of you. I'm really glad that you, the TYT name never sat right with me. Well, that's a different show. Maybe for a different channel, you know. I really don't think it's for our channel to cover, but there's plenty of channels that'll cover that. We're going to cover Cop29 this year. And definitely this is the first one because we wanted to do the background so that you would understand the country that Cop29 is hosting. And it's an even uglier one than last year. They're bad. They're pretty bad. Yeah, it is important information. It is. And for anybody that told me that one genocide is or ethnic cleansing situation is worse than another, I'm sorry, but it isn't. Okay? They're all horrible. And unfortunately, humanity is a little screwy, isn't it? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Oh, my God. All right. Well, it's an hour and I showed you everything. I don't think I have any more videos except for what I'm going to end with. Pretty much. I have one more of Campo, but we saw him and I'm hoping that he might come on Friday night if he writes back to me. And I'm so sorry, Kristen, that Connecticut's having fires. We have had 75-degree Fahrenheit temperature for the last couple of days. It has been unseasonably warm, and to me, it's a foreboding sign. It's kind of scary. It's not supposed to be that end of October. Yeah, I know. I really don't understand why he's going. I don't. I mean, he railed about Israel and he's going there. I don't get it. But that's Paul's prerogative. Maybe he thinks he's going to make a difference because, things are getting so much worse. There's so much in the news about AMOC. How many shows have we done on the AMOC? The Atlantic Meridional Circulation. That is slowing down. We've talked about it how many times? I mean, there's just so many things happening. It is, 84? Holy shit. That's 10 degrees more than where I am. Maybe it even was hotter. I didn't notice. I was just hot. Yeah. Shit. Well, everybody, I want to thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Thanks for the super chats. If I play this video to close, it's probably going to kick me off of monetizing. And oh well. I think sometimes it's really important to do that and not think about the money. And that's right. We've got David Dole on with us tomorrow night on Left Past 10. That's going to be cool. Very good. So tomorrow night, don't forget to come to see us on Left Past 10 with David Dole. Yeehaw! I'm looking forward to that. Absolutely. All right, guys, listen, I love you all. I very much love you all. Maybe a small group, but it's okay. Because again, I always say what? It's quality over quantity. And I feel like I know all of you like really well. And that's what I like about this. The bigger you get, the more you have to worry. You have to worry about trolls. You have to worry about ugly people. You have to worry about people doxing you. And right now I do worry about certain things. I fly that green flag, the ecology flag. God knows what my neighbors think. That is. But I have taken to locking my driveway gate, at least until a while after the election. Cameras, driveway gate. I'm safe. You didn't orb Vroomer. Oh, well, there you go. My Love Shack. The Love Shack, baby. Yeah, and Public Utility. And Channel Warhorse. We love you too. Looney Tunes, thank you. Kim, thank you. I'm going to play the song. Hell with it. You've probably all seen it, but I'm playing it again. Let me cue it up. And it'll feel good. And, to hell with anybody who thinks I cover what I want. I cover things in my own way. So thank you for coming. Thank you so much for coming. Love you.
hiking their way through the sweaty jungles of South Vietnam, searching for an elusive enemy. The temperature is almost 100 degrees, and the jungle stifles even the tiniest breeze. The going is slow. There could be a North Vietnamese regiment hiding a few yards away, and no one would see it. Nobody talks until you start thinking. Specialist Ford Dwayne Moore is thinking he's going to meet his fiancée in Honolulu in 2 weeks, and he will show her the silver star the general pinned on him yesterday.
Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why. Why can't we leave together, baby? Tell me why, tell me why. Why can't we leave together, baby? Everybody wants to leave together. Why can't we live together? Oh. No more war, no more war in this world, just a little peace. No more war, just a little peace in this world. Everybody wants to live together. Why can't we live together?
soldiers, and there is still no guarantee that anyone will be held to account. So how can we tell what really happened here? Why can't we live